Here I am, in the place to be. Mr. K&B, you can't fuck with me. Extra sexy, extraordinary. Palms are hairy, your mama pop. What up, y'all? K&B, the sexy ninja, in the place to be for C+ Studios and a Paper Saber universe. Welcome to the Sexy Ninjacast, the podcast about K&B's passions and loves, his fandoms, what it is to be a juggalo, what it is to be a nerd, what it is to be obsessed with things like Star Wars, comic books, juggalo shit, everything and anything under one podcast right here. And if you like pro wrestling, you should go check out the New World podcast, brother. Okay? All right. Okay. And we just dropped a new design by Katie. She's been doing my designs lately for K&B, the Sexy Ninja, and the Paper Saber universe. A new design just dropped. It's called the True Sexy Ninja. New mascot, new logo coming. It's all building. And today we're going to talk about Superman Returns. Everyone bitches about Henry Cavill not getting another chance, but he has played Superman more than this individual, Brandon Routh. And Brandon Routh did reprise his role as Superman in that crazy crossover they did on the CW shows. But before then, a long time ago, when let's rewind that back. This movie, Superman Returns, is going to be 17 years old this year, and 20, and then like in a few more years, it's going to be 20 years old. Damn. But this movie was huge in the sense of like, in the 90s, we already, 89 to almost 2000s, we had 4 Batman movies. Batman Returns, Batman Forever, then Batman and Robin, and back then, folks, kids, listen, we had to wait for superhero movies, not like they are now on streaming devices. We had 2, 3, 4 years between each goddamn movie if we even knew there was a movie coming. So, and Superman was living on in Lois and Clark, the Adventures of Lois and Clark with Dean Cain as Superman, holding it down on a television front. We had the Adventures of Superman from the animation series from Bruce Timm and all that. The good days, man. The Batman animated series. You woke up on Saturday mornings watching cartoons on Fox. Fox Tunes, I think it was called, or Fox Kids. Yeah, but that's where we went. We waited for those days. We didn't have it at the tip of our fingertips like you kids have it today. I'm not trying to spew and sound like an old man. I'm just saying it was a different time back then. So, the last Superman movie was with Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves, Superman's, and it didn't end on a great note with that Superman 4. There was a Supergirl, but there was a long haul before a Superman movie was on the horizon. And Superman dates back for so long, the Truth, Justice, and the American Way. This character itself has been around for so long. And staple of DC Comics, part of the Trinity. So when Superman Returns was on the horizon, and this is when we heard about Superman Lives with Kevin Smith. If you haven't heard that story, you should listen to that story. There's also a great documentary on what happened to that movie, but there was attempts to make a Superman movie because it's been so long, and this movie is a homage sequel to the Christopher Reeves movies, especially the first 2 by Richard Donner. And those movies are near and dear, especially the Richard Donner cut for Superman 2. I love that movie. So this is a sequel to those. It kind of skips over what happens with the 3rd and 4th movie. We don't need to get into that. We don't get into Lee Nails with Nuclear Man scratching Superman and Superman fighting Superman, But this movie definitely has Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, Bryan Singer's the director, with 2 strikes with most folks against this movie because of the controversy and shit these 2 individuals did. And, it's one of those things where Hollywood has its secrets, and it's pretty dark. And, those secrets are still going on today, and things are getting more revealed, but it's crazy. But we're talking about Bryan Singer, the man who started the X-Men franchise, and during that time with the X-Men and this and that, we got Spider-Man by Sam Raimi, and with this movie was definitely one of those movies that was trying to re-spark, DC itself. Re-spark, we're bringing back the guy in tights wearing his underwear on the outside. And they had this script. And it is, and they made this movie. And the movie itself was supposed to have sequels, because Lex is on an island at the end of this movie. And after, I wanted to do a rewatch because I do like watching this movie every once in a while. And besides the Kevin Spacey and the Bryan Singer taint on it, I tried just to watch the movie and see the characters on the screen. It kind of goes into the modern day of Ezra Miller in the Flash movie. I'm so fucking excited for that Flash movie because I'm going to see Flashpoint on the big screen finally. I've been waiting for DC to do something in this universe. And now, yes, there's movies in this universe I love. There's many attempts that they tried to spark, but actually building a universe within itself like Marvel has done. And Marvel, yes, but I'm a DC guy and I've been waiting, So under the helm of James Gunn, if you want to check out the podcast I did on that, when he talks about gods and monsters, I did that podcast, so check it out. But this movie, Superman Returns, was big, was huge. Everyone's like, oh shit, Superman's back. And Brandon Routh got cast in perfect casting to pay the homage to Christopher Reeve, And also, I was thinking, almost skipped over, but during that time, Smallville was there, So Superman was on the TV screens more than he was on the big screen, and this movie was that huge, And more and more, I remember the first time I saw the trailer, do you believe a man can fly? It was like, oh, And Kevin Spacey at that time being cast as Lex Luthor was like fucking gold, man. It was one of those things like Brandon Routh, Superman, who's very new to the scene. And, everyone's casting down to this movie to Perry White, to Lois Lane, and everything like that. It was just perfection. And the story's not crazy great. Like I said, it's a movie that's kind of a homage sequel to Superman 1 and 2. Direct sequel, I don't know about that because we have the kid factor in it. I remember when I saw this movie, I saw it with a homie. And she is Superman down. She loves fucking Superman. And I remember we went, this is a fun story. So we went to the premiere of this, and this is when I was working at Harkins at the time, me and her. And we were excited. We were there first in line. I believe one of us went and got Del Taco. We got a shit ton of tacos and we're spreading it. Anybody that came and saw it with us, any of our friends, were like, here, homie, you get a taco, you get a taco, you get a taco, we get a taco. Everybody gets fucking tacos. And at the end of this movie, I remember looking at her and I'm like, so what you think? I was like, I liked it. It was pretty cool. It started off with the old school, Richard Donner Superman cuts, like shows a Krypton and Krypton gets blown up. And then the music, John Williams' iconic Superman music hits. And it's like, okay, here we go. This is Superman Returns. And, with the letters flying and stuff like that. And I looked at her and she was like, I think if I remember right, the first reaction was like, I didn't like Lois. And I was like, they tried real hard for the casting to be on point with everybody in this movie. But I liked her, I liked the actress playing this Lois. And going back now and rewatching it, I really dig this movie. Like, it's not the greatest Superman movie we've ever seen, how can I compare it to Man of Steel? When two different tones of movies, basically what this movie is doing, reintroducing the character, because Clark, there was fragments of Krypton that were out there that scientists discovered, and he left. He's been gone for 5 years, just up and left, and didn't really tell anybody, so we got a Superman that comes back to Earth, and he sees his mom, and the thing too is, like, with his mom, she's like in the starting, then she's at the very end. Like, no real love for Martha in this movie. Martha! So Clark comes back and he's like, it's gone. It's a distance, and Lex is out. You find out that Lex took over this, fell in love with it. He didn't fall in love. He manipulated this old woman who had a bunch of money and she had a boat and stuff like that. Manipulated her, and she's on her deathbed, pure Lex fashion. And she signs like, "I love you. You've done so many things for me." I'm like, "Oh, what have you done, Lex? Lex will do anything, huh?" And he signs off. The family's there. Gertrude, don't do this. He just wants you for your money, blah, 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 blah. And she dies. And, he gets up. He's like, "All right, let's go." And he brings his crew and everybody like that. And he's just like, okay. Then he goes to Superman's Fortress of Solitude, which is a fortress it's called a Fortress of Solitude. I'm looking at the word fortress. Fucking Lex just walked right on in. I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" Kick up your feet, steal a couple crystals. And his overall plan made me laugh because his plan was to create more land. Because what is profitable in this country? Land. So, and I like what he said. Not many people are making it. So, but I'm going to make it. He's going to create his own continent, and this continent is based off Kryptonian technology. Also, kryptonite itself, to where Superman can't even be there. So, and Lois there's these blackouts that happen because when they put the crystal in water, and everything goes off, and Lois wants to go on that story. Clark's back. Clark's trying to find his place inside, trying to find his place back here, and he finds out that Lois is with this dude named Richard, and they have a kid, and, he's like, oh, and what's funny about this, I was talking to Doug, I was like, at no point in this movie where I was like, fuck Richard, fuck him, Lois, you need to be with Superman. Never in that moment. Such a nice guy, helps out, saves the day, but he kind of gets the bone. We really don't get if Lois is willing to leave Richard for him, even though Lois automatically, she's mad at Clark, not mad at Clark, mad at Superman. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh man, wait a minute, because I was trying to play back in my head, but Lois knows Superman's Clark, and I was like, oh. Turn time backwards, So, because if you spin backwards fast enough around the Earth, you can turn time backwards, not causing chaotic disasters amongst the Earth. But Clark's trying to find himself, and there's this really great scene to reintroduce Superman back to the world. Lois is on this plane that's on this shuttle, this plane that's going to launch a spaceship off into space and stuff like that. I really don't understand why, but, it's cool for Superman to swoop in and save the day, and he does save the day. The rocket, of course, it gets locked onto the plane and they won't let go, and the rockets are going off, and they're flooping and flopping all over the place. My daughter's watching with me at this point. She's seeing Lois go, whoosh, duke, 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 and she goes, how is Lois not dead? I was like, I don't know. It's a fucking movie, kid. Jesus, But she's smart. She's smart. So Lois is going around and gets Superman, saves everybody as the plane's crashing, lands in this baseball field, and everyone's like, yeah, he's back, where the fuck have you been? And no one questions Clark's return. Clark's just back in the background, and Brandon Ross Clark is fucking phenomenal, and there's a really great part when Lois and Richard are sitting next to each other, and then Clark's off in the distance. He's listening because he has super hearing. Why not? And Richard's like, hey, how tall is Clark? How's Bill? Blah, 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 blah. And then in pure great fashion, Brandon Roth turns around. He's holding his book, and he pushes his glasses up. And Lois and Richard at the same time react and just laugh, And it's like, oh, fuck that. That guy ain't Superman, And I'm just like, oh, little tidbits like that. Mwah, I just love it. There's this really great scene. I've talked about this before. I've also done the commentary for this movie, Superman Returns, Superman 2, Richard Donner cut. There's this great scene where Lois knows that Clark is Superman, but she pulls a gun on him. And this great moment in cinematic history, my favorite fucking moment in a movie, she shoots him, and Christopher Reeve goes from Clark to Superman in one motion. And it's one of those things where I'm like, holy shit. Brandon Roth has that in this movie, and I really wish that he got the opportunity to play Superman more, especially in this universe, and being introduced to a Batman, because I believe, Batman Begins was around this time, too, and it's just like, oh, the potential of Brandon Roth, but the movie critically did not woo anybody, Ric Flair there, woo, it didn't woo anybody. And going back and rewatching it, I can see why. The story is very, like, a lot of, like, great Caesar's Ghost from Perry White. A lot of throwbacks to the original first two movies. Not being its own movie. Not being its own thing, you know. It's like, yes, hey, you remember that really cool stuff you liked in those first two with Christopher Reeve? Like, we got them all. And Lex's plan, the reason why I'm shitting on Lex's plan, like, yes, great. One of my favorite fucking scenes, too, is when when Superman goes there to that island, and, you know, they're beating the shit out of Clark. I mean, out of Superman after he finds out his kryptonite, and, like, everyone's like, oh, God, you know, they kick the shit out of him. Lex has this really, like, long, daggerish fucking kryptonite, and he stabs him right in the back and snaps the handle off him, like, you devil, you. And he says, fly, you know, throws him, and Clark I keep saying Clark. Superman falls off the island, falls into some water, you know. And I was just like, that scene right there, just that vulnerability of Superman being down and then getting stabbed and, you know, throws him off. Now, this goes to my other part of this, is when we cut back to Lex, you know, they're just playing cards. And I'm like, oh, so now you did the deed. You stabbed Superman, threw him off. Your plan is working. Now you just got to wait it out. You know. So Richard, Lois, and the kid, they save Superman. Lois pulls the shard of kryptonite out of his side. He goes up and he embraces the sun, the radiation of the sun, you know, and then he goes down. And one of the most badass moments ever in this movie is he takes the whole fucking island and he's carrying it off into space. This thing is killing him, you know, with the kryptonite and everything like that. But this scene is so cool. And while he's doing this, like, Lex and them are like, oh shit, we need to go, you know, get an helicopter. Ah! And in that moment, I'm like, that's all it was now. It's just a waiting game, just so billions of people can die. And he's like, hey, look here, I got property, huh? Beachside property. So, but it's such a great moment. I after watching this movie, sitting there with my daughter, who could give a crap less, you know, she was watching for a bit, asking questions and stuff. But moments, I'm like, hey, look at this. He's going to carry the island off into space. He's going to fall, and everyone's thinking he's going to die. And he didn't die, you know. And then you find out that that's his kid. It doesn't really make sense, but yeah, that's his kid, you know. And he has asthma, and he's all fucked up with whatever, you know. But he's Superman's kid. And that's why I feel so bad for the Richard character, because he's such a nice guy. And it's like, yeah, that's not my kid. That's Superman's kid. How can I live up to that? That this isn't my kid. That's Superman's kid. Superman, I'm second to Lois, not compared to Superman, because she's all like, oh, Richard. And she sees Superman. She's like, oh, hey, I'm taking my shoes off. Let's go fly, baby. Let's go fly. And I'm about to kiss you. And I'm like, And her words were like, Richard is such a nice guy. And I'm like, fuck. Oh, being the nice guy, being the good guy. And then Superman comes up and fucks it all up for all of us. Yeah, so Lex's plan, he loses, and he had his moment, and he takes off with the helicopter. Then they land on an island, and that's it. That's the last we see of Lex. Lex is still out there, you know. And the reason why he got out, too, is because I guess they even mentioned, like, during that 5-year period of when Superman is gone, Superman was supposed to be there for his parole, the hearings or whatever in the court. And since Superman wasn't there, they're like, just let him go. Let him off on parole. He's fine. What about all the bad shit he's done? Superman wasn't here to confirm any of that. Just let him go. Oh, okay, sure. And he goes off and schmoozes some old woman and whatnot. And I gotta say, if I had to rate this movie right now, after witnessing it and seeing it again, I give this movie a solid 7. 7 out of 10. I really had a good time. You know, it hit all the feels it needed. I wasn't, the story, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Oh yeah, I forgot about this, you know. But it's those homages and, you know, to Superman Returns. Fan service, if you will, if you want to call it. They really didn't say that back then, but fan service. Like, hey, you remember that cool thing in these ones? It's in this one too. Now we have all the fan service. And no one likes fan service. I like fan service just because I'm a fucking fan. It goes to like these new movies, like Force Awakens was just basically A New Hope, but with the new cast of characters and whatnot. It's just like, hey, you remember that thing? And that's where I think Superman Returns falls to the wayside of that, is because it didn't, at a moment of the movie, it didn't make it its own thing. Like, we could have done, that's why the potential of the sequels was like, where do they go? What's the next big threat, And where does Brandon Roth fit there? And sadly, after this movie comes out, it wasn't the biggest hit they got. And Brandon Roth just kind of flew off into the wind, and that made me really sad because I like him, but he got his due. He got to be Superman again. He got to be Ray Palmer, the Atom, and what's that? God, I can't remember. DC's Legends of Tomorrow show. So he made a little bit of a comeback. He also did another movie called Dylan Dog, a comic book that's based, I believe it's a Swedish comic book, if I remember correct. And in that movie, he's with the guy that plays Jimmy Olsen in Superman Returns, and they return together in the movie called Dylan Dog, where he's basically like a ripoff Constantine. That's just what I'm going with. I gotta double check that if he outdates. But, drop that comment below. Do your research. Google that shit. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think Constantine outdates Dylan Dog by a little bit, maybe by a little bit, because this came out, it was like in the newspapers and stuff over there. So drop that knowledge. School me, man. School me. So 7 out of 10, Superman Returns. I also found the prequel comic books to this. I thought I had them. I only had one of them, but I found the full set for like $10 on eBay, and I was like, oh, and there's a Lex one about his time in jail. There's Ma Kent, who we really spend no time with. He comes back, hey, Ma, in the meter, like, hey, what's up? Yeah, I couldn't find shit. Yeah. Then leaves. Then his mom finds out that he's possibly dying and he's in the fucking hospital, and she's outside, and that's the last we see of her. And I was like, oh, no love for Martha. Why'd you say that name? So 7 out of 10. Check out Superman Returns if you ever get the chance. I believe it's on Prime. If you have Prime, I watched it on the DC hub on HBO Max. I also still have the physical copy. I have the box set of the Superman anthology, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I should do a full run of the Superman movies, like I did with the Star Trek. I still have so much planned and so much podcasting to do, and I just want to share my love and fandom with you, and shout out to everybody who's rocking with us here at C Plus Studios and the Paper Saber universe. It's just nothing but love and respect. I just want to just send some positivity out in the world and share what I love, and hopefully you like my thoughts on this movie. Superman Returns, directed by Bryan Singer, starring Brandon Roth and Kevin Spacey in 2 iconic roles, and Lois Lane as well. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. I'm really sorry, but she did great. I thought she was a good Lois Lane. My favorite Lois Lane, if you ask me, is Erica Durance from Smallville. I really like Erica Durance's Lois Lane. No offense to Amy Adams at Lois Lane. And it's just crazy when you kind of think of, like, how many versions of actors played these characters, especially Batman. You go from Keaton, Adam West, and even before then, the serials back in the day. I was joke. One more thing before I leave. It's like in Back to the Future 2, Jaws 14, and then Marty's like, he's like, Shark still looks fake. And we're still living in the day of ages of, like, there's multiple sequels for everything because it's all about that cash money. And I heard a rumor that Lord of the Rings is getting a reboot, or they're doing more movies. We'll see what happens there. I don't care, though. Not a big Lord of the Rings guy. So, but there's people out there that are, and they're going to be fans of whatever they're served, just like I am with Star Wars and everything else in this world, the DC and everything. I will try to love it as best I can and enjoy it as much as I can. That's it. That's all. Okay? After that, you're going to like and you're going to subscribe, because KMB, the sexy ninja, is fucking awesome. I try. Hold the applause. Golf clap. Share with your grandma. Share with the bum down at Walmart. And remember, stay sexy, ninjas. Whoop, whoop.
Welcome to the wicked shit.
Oh, yeah.